Midnight in Ha Tin, Vietnam did not fall quietly. It shattered under the force of Typhoon Bualoi. A monster storm that made landfall on the night of September 28, 2025. Winds screamed near 95 kilometers per hour, with gusts far stronger, while waves climbed higher than houses. Entire streets vanished beneath black water. Families clutched walls and door frames as the sea poured into their homes, praying the structures would not give way. There was no passing storm. Born far out in the Pacific Ocean, Bualoi marched relentlessly toward Vietnam's north-central coast, strengthening with every hour. Offshore, waves surged nearly 10 meters, hammering seawalls until they collapsed. On land, power poles felt like matchsticks, sparks exploding into floodwaters that swallowed motorbikes, furniture, and memories in minutes. The devastation spread quickly. Across 5 provinces, Ninh Binh, Thanh Hoa, Ngai An, Ha Tin, and Quang Binh, more than 28,000 people were evacuated. In Ha Tin alone, 16,500 residents crowded into schools and shelters. Classrooms transformed into makeshift dormitories. Families pressed shoulder to shoulder, carrying only blankets, bags, or photographs. Whatever little could be saved before the storm consumed everything else. Warnings had been clear. Meteorologists tracked Bualoi's approach, reporting its position on September 28th at just 200 kilometers northwest of Genong. Hours later, it was only 360 kilometers from Hanoi. The government ordered 21 provinces to prepare. Soldiers cleared beaches, fishermen were forced back to port, and airports shut down. In Da Nang, Phu Bai, Giang Hoi, and Tho Xuan, 42 flights were canceled and 51 delayed. Travelers sat stranded in silent halls, staring at departure boards flashing red warnings. But by nightfall, nothing could stop Bualoi. The storm slammed into the coast with a ferocity that tore through defenses. Windows shattered. Roofs peeled away. Entire houses collapsed within minutes. Coastal cities, Da Nang, Hue, Quang Gui, were drowned by midnight. Power grids failed, plunging neighborhoods into total blackness while the storm howled outside. The night was filled with metal shrieking, wood splintering, and the relentless crash of waves. In Quang Tri, 3 people vanished into the floods. In Ya Nang, another was swept away. 4 lives were gone in an instant, stolen by waters too strong to fight. Soldiers tied ropes across submerged streets, dragging survivors through torrents that could have swallowed them whole. Families huddled together in darkness, waiting for dawn. Then came the rain. Between Thanh Hoa and Ha Tin, rainfall totals reached 200 to 400 millimeters. In some places, more than 600. Rice paddies disappeared under muddy water. Crops just weeks from harvest were ruined overnight. For farmers, it was not just land that drowned. It was food, income, and months of survival. By dawn on September 29th, Bualoi's fury reached its peak. The typhoon struck during high tide, driving the sea deep into the land. Seawalls cracked open. Villages vanished beneath the surge. At the Lam River, waters rose so high that entire communities had to be evacuated by boat in the dead of night. In Nay An Province, National Highway 7 disappeared beneath 4 meters of water, stretching for 2 kilometers and cutting off every route to the mountains. The figures told only part of the story. 86 homes destroyed, 42 flights canceled, countless power poles downed, whole stretches of coastline ruined, but numbers could never capture human loss. Families returned to shattered houses with walls gone and roofs missing. Children lost schools, now reduced to piles of mud and debris. Farmers stood in drowned fields watching their future dissolve. Even as the storm weakened inland, it left chaos in its wake. In Ninghe An and Ha Tin, winds dropped to force levels of 8 and 9, with gusts near 11. But destruction continued. Trees blocked roads, schools collapsed, and villages sat in silence, soaked in mud. Survivors searched through ruins, pulling soaked belongings from broken homes. But this was not just Vietnam's tragedy. Days earlier, the same storm had ravaged the Philippines, killing over 210 people. Entire villages were washed away, families swept into rivers, and power lines crashed into towns. Survivors clung to rooftops while floodwaters carried away everything they had built. Taiwan too felt the storm's outer bands, mountains drenched, highways buried by landslides, villages isolated by torrents of mud. Tens of thousands sat powerless in dark cities while rescue boats searched for the missing. Vietnam had watched those images, but warnings became reality. On September 28th and 29th, Bualoi carved its legacy into the nation's heart. In Ha Tin, shelters overflowed with evacuees. In Quang Tri, relatives searched riverbanks for missing loved ones. In Gia Nang, stranded passengers wondered when airports would reopen. And across Than Hoa to Quang Binh, families stepped into broken homes, the silence louder than the storm itself. By September 30th, the system finally weakened as it pushed inland. But the scars it left were deep. Schools closed. Airports stood empty. Crops destroyed. Homes broken. Typhoon Bualoi left more than destruction. It left memory. For survivors, the night will not be remembered as September 28th or 29th. It will be remembered as the sound, the roar of waves taller than houses, the shriek of metal torn from rooftops, the silence of entire cities in darkness, and the cries of families swept into the flood. Vietnam has faced storms before, and it will again. But Bualoi's fury remains etched in broken seawalls, drowned fields, missing names, and the resilience of people forced to rebuild from nothing. Storms pass. Memories do not. And as seas grow warmer and storms grow stronger, the question is no longer if another disaster will strike, but when.